And with a click of a button, that's all it takes. We are live. Episode 45 is coming at you, everyone. Welcome to Everything Teams Phone Live for another Friday afternoon session of Microsoft Teams. This one is a bit different than normal. This one is all about selling Microsoft Teams Phone. Why do we do selling Microsoft Teams Phone? It's because we have a bunch of partners out there that asked us, hey, we want to learn more about how we sell Microsoft Teams Phone, because people, enterprises, beating down their doors, asking questions, and we want to equip everyone that's interested in selling Microsoft Teams Phone with the right information. Brandon Bradley, how are you today?
I'm doing very well. I think, before we introduce our guest, I have to ask about your sweater. What is with your sweater?
He stole his girlfriend's sweater.
We had a corporate sort of ugly sweater contest, and this didn't even come close to winning. So we had this corporate contest and just ugly sweater, just spread some holiday cheer, give some stuff away, that kind of thing, right? It's all about empowering our people to thrive. And so in case you're listening, Todd, that was for you, buddy. It's all about empowering people and having fun and building good culture. And so this was a little ugly sweater contest, which I think this is quite a nice sweater, and it didn't win. So at this point, I should have taken it off. I forgot to take it off. So now here you've got me in green, which is not a good color combination. Doesn't work for me, but we're on. We're live.
Okay, and then your background has changed. Is this your first live show in Phoenix? Or did we?
I think it is.
Did we do one last week?
It is.
No, this is your first one.
No. Yeah, that's what last week was. Was it London last week? No, it wasn't London last week. No, this is the first one. After our show last week, I literally packed the car and drove down to Scottsdale, Arizona. So I'm here for 4 or 5 months, winter Arizonan, if you call it, something snowbirding, whatever you want to call it. Just, you know what? I'm chasing the sunshine a little bit. So down here in Arizona, that's why the background has changed. So for the next 4 months or 5 months, we'll be here doing the show here or on the road, because there's a lot of travel in the future. So there you go. That's it. Well, thank you, everyone, for hanging out for the intro there. We've got a special guest today. Our special guest is Carmen I. Carmen, say hello to there. There you go.
Hello.
Say hello, everybody. Carmen is in channel sales at Momentum Telecom, G12 Communications, and G12/Momentum Telecom. Sorry, Momentum. Sorry, Mark. Momentum. And we're going to ask Carmen a whole bunch of questions about how she sells Microsoft Teams Phone, why she's so successful at selling Microsoft Teams Phone, what are the things that people are interested in seeing. And when I say people, the selling community is one thing, but really what's important to the businesses. Carmen, why don't you give us some of your background, Carmen, so that we know where we're coming from and where you're coming from and what your base of knowledge is.
Well, I've been selling business communication phone systems since about 1988. I hate to say that out loud.
I was barely out of diapers. I have to confess that. But...
Yeah. Well, but that could have been when you were 15. So, I mean, we were not going to.
Well, that's a good one. That's a good
one. That was great, Carmen.
Either way, I feel young.
Yeah. So for a number of years, I started when voicemail was a brand new thing. And I mean, a brand new thing, and have just kind of stayed in the industry since then. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of changes. I've seen a lot of things that didn't take off, and I've seen a lot of things that really did take off, and I have seen nothing take off like Microsoft Teams phone system.
So to be clear, you've been selling telephone systems since voicemail was a thing, right? So now that's a great sort of way to put it, because I say this all the time to everyone, that Teams is like no other movement that we've ever seen in the telecom space. I've been doing this for 25 years. So it's nothing like I've ever seen. So same for you. I mean, you were on the phone system side where I was on the telco side. So on the phone system side, have you seen adoption like this before? Have you ever seen anything like this before where the solution is just so readily available for any customer, whether you're a small biz or a large enterprise, and the ability for them just to take it down and consume it just as easily as anyone? Have you anything like this before?
ShoreTel came close when it first hit the market because it was so different and so revolutionary. But they didn't keep up the development of it. But Microsoft, I mean, like this, no.
Yeah. The development's a good, interesting thing. Brandon, what was the number last month or the month before for, what would you call it, for the updates that Microsoft Teams put out?
Oh, it was a lot. I don't remember the exact number, but and that was for Teams in general. So it's obviously, from a, improvement, process improvement, feature improvement, tech improvement. Microsoft is probably releasing features faster than any, traditional phone system like an Avaya, ShoreTel has probably ever released features.
Without a doubt.
That's what I think. It's like kicking out. I'll go ahead.
Yeah, Carmen, I'm going to ask a different question. Do you, in your day-to-day, whether you're talking with potential customers or partners, do you feel like the conversation has changed a little bit over the years, like especially with Microsoft, where now it's more about business process versus just, hey, I just want dial tone? What do you see as far as the evolution of the conversation goes?
It's all over the board. Some people don't even consider that your business process can be improved with a phone system. You have to have a phone system. You have to have calls. So they don't understand the working it into the business process. And when you show them some of the collaboration features, they're like, wow.
So it's almost like, for some people, it's almost, they're still thinking about it as a traditional system, and then you have the conversation with them, and all of a sudden they have to take a step back because they didn't even realize that they should be thinking about those things maybe.
Yeah, that's frequently the case. That is frequently the case.
So are you, so the people that you see, the customers that you see more of, are they customers that are coming from legacy phone systems, or are they coming from cloud phone systems, or are they working backwards in that they've had collaboration and they're going from collaboration, they're coming back into the telco? Or do you see them going, here, I've had a phone system and now I'm coming into the collaboration space? Or are they always in collaboration working back to the phone system?
It's kind of all over the board. Now I could have a 10 o'clock appointment and talk to a company that's got 10,000 employees like we were today. And then later on this afternoon, I'm talking to a business that has probably 12 phones. So, they each have the things that are important to them. As a business owner, the small business owner, that's livelihood for 12 people. So that's important to them. So it's kind of all over the board. There's a lot of people coming from other cloud carriers that are looking to collapse their tech stack. They've got Office 365, they've got Teams, they use that for some things in Teams, chat, that type of thing. And then they've got their cloud phone system, and they're just looking to collapse applications. They hear a lot that there's, you don't want to go to Teams phone system because it doesn't have all the features and on and on and on. And once I show it to them, they're like, oh, wow, yeah, where do we go? How do I get this?
That's really, that's a great spot to talk about that specifically. When I say that specifically, I mean, I don't want to call it misinformation, but some of the stuff that's floating around out there, misconceptions, if you will, right? So what are some of the misconceptions that you hear more often from customers where it's just wrong information? What are some of the things that you hear?
Oh, that there's no IVRs, which are automated attendance. There's no hunt groups. There's it's not ready for prime time. It's really only suited for the tiny company. They have outages all the time.
Oh yeah,
I
there
mean,
you go.
just
That's
all
one. And are those all false? Are they all false? Sort of are they myths? Are they? We're going to do some myth busting here. Are those all false claims? So when someone comes and says, "Well, Teams doesn't really do IVR that well," or something like that, is that something that you can say? Listen, that's just not true. Here's what it does. Here's what it does really well.
Well, I try to be gentle when I tell people that they've listened to a crock of crap, but I can't really say that. I'll say, well, why don't I show it to you? And you tell me what you want it to do that I can't show you that it does. You got to kind of be a little nice about it.
From Missouri, show me.
Yeah.
There's another interesting thing. I was having a conversation with some folks earlier this week in Atlanta, talking about the various legacy phone systems, and one thing that I hadn't really put a lot of thought into is the fact that Microsoft is layering on all of these features, and just here you go. Here's what the $8 phone license gives you. Whereas some of the legacy systems, IVR is an example. Oh, you want IVR? You're going to pay an extra license fee for that. So I think maybe, Carmen, you've seen this, maybe you haven't, where that could be a misconception for customers where they go, well, how much do I have to pay for this feature? And for me, I think the light bulb moment last week for me was like, with Microsoft, we just get to tell them it's yours. You're paying for it.
If anybody remembers, is it Ragu commercials? Anyone? Chuck, are you listening, Chuck? It's in there. All right, come on. It's in there. It just comes with it.
Yeah, I get asked a lot, how much extra is that? How much, does everybody get that? And I usually just answer, only if you want them to have it. It's all permissions based.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you tell, Carmen, selling people, whether it's partners, brokers, MSPs, what would you tell them if they didn't know Teams phone really well, and if they have customers that are looking to understand Teams phone, like because it seems like to me you've got 4 options to activate Teams phone. You got Teams phone mobile, you got direct routing, you got Microsoft Teams calling plans, you got Operator Connect, so I can see how it creates a lot of confusion out there in the space for people to be able to consult with their client and go, hey, here's what you need. So, and that's overwhelming to think that you could actually learn the Microsoft Teams phone system on top of figuring out how to, deliver phone service. What good advice would you have for those people out there selling Microsoft Teams phone or wanting to, because I've got clients knocking on their door, maybe asking about it?
Well, you're right. There are some portions of it that are confusing. And I think that's a frustration level that the clients have, because everybody, hey, we just want to go Google something, look at 3 articles and know everything we need to know about it. And this is just a little deeper than that. So you can't always have Dr. Google at your disposal here. But that's where the partners come in. I mean, that's what makes us valuable, is I can talk to you about your business. I can talk to you about what's going on in your world and recommend which dial plan or which PSTN access for your Microsoft Teams is valid. And it may be more than one. There may be an instance where you want to have your field people on the mobile and you want everybody else in the office on an Operator Connect. And maybe you've got somebody that's way out in the middle of nowhere that can hop on a calling plan because that's the only thing offered in that country that they live in. And that's the beautiful thing about Microsoft Teams, is they've opened up this dial tone ecosystem to however you can get it in. We're going to tuck it in and we're going to use it, and you're going to still all be on the same phone system.
No, that's a really, really good point. And that's a great selling feature of Microsoft Teams. I mean, in general, it's like you can just layer on any carrier you want to lay on from a coverage perspective, let's just say. What are some of the features that you see what features or software packages? What are some of the things that you see that people are really, really interested in, and are surprised that Teams delivers on that, or an application delivers on that?
Well, there's, if you have to break it up into two areas, there's the system features. How are we going to traffic the calls through the system? And then there's the end user features. So on the system side, I focus on, the automated tenant, the call queues, the holiday schedules that can go out for 50 years if you want them to. I mean, how are we know we're going to be communicating in 50 years? But you can do it. The granular policies that you can create for groups or people, that's pretty impressive to most people on the system side. On the end user side, the people that absolutely don't care about how it's built and what's under the hood, something that just trips people's switches, being able to pick the caller ID that you want to, if you've got permissions, you can pick which caller ID you want to call out on. And I'll give everybody a perfect example. Sometimes Rick gets mad at me. Well, on occasion, Rick gets mad at me, and I know he won't pick up the phone or answer the call if I call him. So I will grab one of my coworkers' caller IDs and call him, and he'll answer, "Hey, Aaron, how are you?" I'm like, "It's not Aaron, it's Garmin." So
that's after 20 phone calls, like in the last 30 minutes. So that's, just be clear about that. I'm not, I'm not terrible like that.
yeah. So selecting outbound caller ID, delegates being able to, cover each other, answer each other's calls, see what the other person's doing, the presence, that's good. The ability to transfer calls is really easy. And that's one thing that people are really concerned about is, whoa, how do I transfer on my computer? Well, it's way easier than hitting transfer 4625. Listen, hang up. It's way easier than that. Conferencing people in, dropping them off, that's all very, very easy. And that usually gets people excited. We're getting a lot of people that are coming to us now for SMS texting. Being able
that's
to
a good one.
text out from my business number. And oddly enough, the smaller businesses where the business owner is not necessarily interested, his customers want to text, so they're going to text, but not necessarily interested in giving everybody his mobile phone number because they use it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday.
That's an interesting one, Carmen. Would you be able to show us what that looks like? What does a texting application in Microsoft Teams look like? Because that struck a chord with me. Texting is in North America very important, and not just for small customers. We see it for larger customers, financial institutions, wealth management, caseworkers. Like, we see all of the field workers looking to do texting. I don't know, Brandon, if you want to show what that looks like, or Carmen, if you want to show what it looks like, what does texting in Microsoft Teams look like? Because it is important for the selling communities to kind of get a feel for it and understand it.
I don't know that I want to show mine because I don't know that I want everybody to see who all I'm working with.
Here, I'll share mine.
I'll
Let me. You got yours?
Yeah, I got it. Let me move a browser share.
Because I get a lot of customers that text me, or prospects that I'm working with will text me. So I'd really rather not show their names
perfect.
on.
Perfect. Okay, there you go.
I keep my demo environment nice and clean. A whole bunch of test. So
and is that dark mode? Is that why we're seeing it so dark? Because like mine doesn't look like that. Is that dark mode?
Yeah, you're seeing the Teams client is in dark mode, but the application,
got it.
The Teams texting application is the white portion of the screen that you see. And this is also,
got it.
For listeners, this is also mobile friendly, right? So you take the Teams app to your mobile device, this lays right inside, and it looks and feels just like your native text application, whether you're on a iPhone or Android device.
That's pretty simple to operate. And then you got contacts over there in the middle. I can see the contacts there, and then groups. It looks like that looks nice and simple to operate.
Yeah, one thing to think about, right? I think this is and Carmen, you can shoot me down if I'm wrong, but I think this is a conversation that comes up quite a bit around contacts. I think sometimes this expectation that hey, the contact should be the same for everyone, but what clients need to remember is this texting application is your personal office application. It's tied to your business number, and I may not want, my coworkers' contacts synced into my application, right? It might be too noisy. So this gives you some flexibility on, you can bring in the gal from Microsoft where you got your corporate directory that you can import, but this is also the users can manage their contact list on a per user basis.
I mean, that's exactly, it operates just like normal texting. It's like, and this is important for people that are, I think I heard you talk about an example, Carmen, truck drivers and dispatchers, right? So if you're coming into a yard or you're doing something and you can text your, here I'm coming into the yard or whatever it is. I think I heard something to that effect on one of your discussions.
Yeah. Truckers making docking appointments into places that have, busy warehouses that stuff's coming in and out on. I've got a landscaping company that's got a lot of landscapers out there, and they're sending them from job to job to job to job, communicating them, and they don't want to buy licenses and all that for the people that are out there doing the landscaping. So they communicate with that a lot. You can put texting in a channel. So let's say the three of us were on an IT help desk, or we're talking to customers. If you've got 3 dispatchers, we can all see what everybody's saying. So all of us can see, all of us can reply. The person on this end of life only sees it as coming from the company. They don't see that it came from Rick at the company, or that they just see that it came from the company. But on your end, you see that, oh, Rick told him that, or you can see what the team has been communicating to him.
Yeah, and I think another big team group based scenario is you're a company that shares, and I know security people listening will cringe, but they share maybe a login to a system, a CRM or something, and they need to grab at any given time, an agent needs to grab the MFA code for that secondary authentication method. And so we see that quite a bit too, where they want a shared account where any agent can grab the data out of that channel.
Carmen, your trucking thing, I didn't even think about it, but I recently, because I'm here in Arizona now, right? And a truck picked up my vehicle from Seattle, right, and drove it down here to Arizona, and I didn't realize that, but that the whole transaction was texting, and not just texting, it wasn't on my mobile, it was texting on my work phone. Because you remember, like at my house in Seattle, my coverage for my cell phone is not very good. So I use Teams all the time. I use my Teams phone application, all that good stuff on my cell phone with Wi-Fi. And that was the entire transaction was done via texting and Teams texting essentially. So that's a good example that didn't even come to mind.
Yeah, I work with a municipality that has a text for potholes. If you see a pothole, just text us where the pothole is. And that's really popular. I mean, they're not asking for anything other than just tell us where the potholes are. And they get texts with pictures of the pothole.
I was just going to say, is MMS in there where you can see pictures, you can see GIFs, stuff like that? That's all just normal texting stuff. I mean, that's pretty exciting. So that is a huge feature that we see. And again, large business and small business, texting is something that I think you're seeing more and more inside of Microsoft Teams for organizations that can do it properly, because there's definitely a proper way to go about texting. Anyone that's dealt with 10DLC stuff knows exactly what I'm talking about. Anyway, what other things, Carmen, have you seen out there that's really important for people to know when they're going to a client has asked about it? What are some things that they should be equipped with, from a knowledge perspective? Actually, here it is. Here, let me break it down a little more. What are some things that the selling person needs to know to be able to grab this information and go to maybe someone like you who's a little bit more equipped with specialized knowledge to start doing something, to start pulling together rough ideas about, can this support it, can it not support it? What are some good sort of questions people need to be asking?
Probably the easy, go for the low hanging fruit. Go for, do you use Teams at all today? What do you use for collaboration? And Teams is, yeah, we use Teams for chat, or we use Teams for meeting. Okay, so you're already familiar with the interface. You've already got people on that. The user adoption of plugging in a dial pad on this is going to be like falling off a log. So your users are not going to have to manage multiple applications for different communication channels, and they stop and think about that. If you're a business owner and you're consuming time that you're paying for in 4-second chunks throughout that person's day, how much time are you going to get back?
Productivity gains, right? I mean, that's what this has all been about. Like, I mean, it seems like there's a big push to really figure out how we monetize, and you just did it right there. How do you monetize productivity? And you kind of broke it down just a little bit when you look at time savings and what are we spending on circling a traditional voicemail, or circling an older phone system, and how much time is lost, and then times how much that individual is paid on an annualized basis or daily basis, and then taking that away. And then as you rack that up across the entire year, what does that add up to? So those are some real numbers. I think that the category, or the what's the financial, there was a last year, I think, came out. There was maybe it was this year, earlier this year, the Forrester economic,
total
the Forrester
economic
report.
impact of Teams.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked to a big group today that voicemails go to email, but it's a recording that they have to listen to, and just transcription. And the comment was made, we could have had transcription, but we didn't want to pay for it. Well, you don't pay for it, Teams. It's just there. And I can record calls ad hoc, and it will transcribe them.
That's interesting. You know what? I didn't even think about that, but it is true. It is stuff that does get charged. If you were, because as a UCaaS provider, I remember when we were hooking up the APIs for the transcription, and there was a per minute charge to the transcription, right? So there was definitely a charge, and I forget, we ended up absorbing all that stuff, but you forget that all those little pieces cost, and it's just built in. It's like the whole Ragu thing, Chuck, that's for you. It's in there. It's just in there with Microsoft Teams. I think a lot of people that make a living off of selling, brokering telecom services and IT services are a bit concerned that there's no commissions involved. Microsoft doesn't pay commissions, and that's true from a licensing perspective. But what do you say to stuff like that?
I get paid. I'm making a good living.
What about the agents out there that bring a deal to you, Carmen? What about an agent that's out there doing a deal? Do they get commissions on stuff like that?
They do get commissions on that. They get commissions on the G12 Operator Connect, or if we sold direct routing and they introduce us to the client, they're going to get commissions off of that.
So there's commissions. There's what that we talked about the so you get paid. We talked about the some of the myths that are out there, like it doesn't do IVR well or doesn't do automated attendant well. We've kind of dispelled those, because you're basically asking, what do you want it to do that it can't do, and you show them, here's what it looks like.
Not only can it do IVR exceptionally, it can add speech recognition to the IVR at no charge. So that's going to make life easier for your customers, because everybody's calling in on the mobile phone, and you get an automated attendant on the mobile phone, and it says, for sales, press 1, for support, press 2, for this, press 3, for accounts receivable, press 4. And what are they doing? They're going, bring up their dial pad, or you can just say sales. So, you're making life easier for the people calling in.
Okay. All right. If you're, let me go back to that whole, if you're someone that is making a living off of selling, brokering IT services and things like that, what are and you said, are you using Teams today? Is it your collaboration? How are you using it? What's some basic information that needs to be gathered for you to start kind of working with them? Like how, how many users? What are some basic good questions there?
Well, of course, there's how many users, what is your current licensing level at Microsoft. So you may have to add on the Microsoft phone system license, but it may already be included in your bundle that you purchase from Microsoft. Frequently, we see that it is because of all the security things that you get in the more upstream bundles. If they're
There was a
dealing
big
with a
number. Oh, sorry.
not-for-profit world, if it's a not-for-profit customer that they're dealing with, and oftentimes on the not-for-profits don't really have the depth of the IT staff, so they rely on brokers and partners in that. The not-for-profit add-on for the phone system is as close to free as you can get from Microsoft. So,
See, that's
they're
all
the
good stuff.
they're the ones that need to be, because Microsoft's given them a good deal on their Office 365 or their enterprise license or whatever. And just to add phone system to that is seriously next to nothing. And then they
Excellent.
come
Brandon,
and give them
now, Brandon,
So
Carmen, you said something. Oh, go ahead. I was saying you said something earlier, or I wanted to say Carmen said something about they almost always have, or they have licensing all the time. What's the number, Brandon? Do you know what the number is that between PSTN subscribers and, like, let's say E5 subscribers?
Yeah, so I'll answer that, and then I'm gonna go back to something Carmen said earlier as well. I was actually off pulling up that Forrester report because I'm fascinated by the cost savings piece of this report. So first, from a Microsoft license perspective, what is there? There's 380 million active Teams users, something like that across
320
or 320 million across the ecosystem. Something like 80 million Teams phone licensed users, and of those 80 million, only like 18 million are actually consuming the service. So you've got like 60 million licensed users out there where the companies are paying for a phone license, not leveraging it, so they're bleeding that cost into paying for another phone system. So back to this cost savings thing, that's a huge number when you start breaking it down. But just to nerd out a little bit, Carmen, you had mentioned, this whole, efficiency of, if you're in Teams, you're not app switching, right? You've got your texting there, maybe you've got CRM integration, you got your phone there, you're saving all this time. And one of the little things in this economic study that Forrester did on Teams Phone is around corporations of, I think the study was 10,000 employees. But I did a little quick math on, say, 1,000 employees just to kind of break it down. And what they're saying is, for the average company that has mobile workers, Teams Phone with its integration, so you're not app switching, save 20 minutes a day, and that's for the mobile worker, right? So that's 1.6 hours a week. And then for the average knowledge worker that sits at a desk, it's 3 minutes a day. And now I know 3 minutes doesn't sound like a lot, but that's for 15 minutes a week. So if you just take that 15 minutes, and in the study they said, hey, if we average out the salary across these big corporations, they came up with this number, $45 an hour for the employee, for their hourly wage. So at 3 minutes a day, assuming you have 1,000 employees, the money against time saved for other things equates to $585,000 a year for that company. And I'm not saying they're not paying that employee, but that's a huge number when you think, you mean I can pay $500,000 to my employee base to have them engaged in more meaningful work than app switching? That's a big thing to take into consideration.
That's a huge productivity gain. I want to make sure I understood what you were saying, Brandon. I'm going to I think I got it, but I want to make sure. So you're saying there's 20 minutes and 3 minutes a day saved, depending upon the persona of the employee. Yep. You averaged out what that employee cost was based on a salary of an average of $45 an hour. And then you calculated that 3 minutes and that 20 minutes on a weekly, then annualized basis. And you come up with some big sort of bucket of minutes on an annualized basis that you saved, and then times the $45, and that's where you get, and then times 1,000 employees, and now you get this 545,000, whatever it was, $500,000 in productivity gains. So therefore, the company would be saving or putting to work in paid productivity $500,000 more a year. That's pretty significant.
You can, you take that time that you're paying for. So time equals money, and you can focus your employee on other things than app switching.
Carmen, do people ask about, I mean, when you're looking at this and you're selling to an organization, are they still line by line or apples to apples comparing, okay, here's Teams Phone, here's what I pay for Teams Phone from a license perspective, and then here's the dial tone piece and the management piece and the texting piece, or all the pieces, or so are they comparing it to what they have from a cost perspective, or do they look at these productivity gains or do they not even look at the productivity gains and just go, is it in the realm of what I pay? And I go, and if you're a traditional phone system, is it in the realm of what I pay for telco services? And then the licensing, let's just say, that goes along with the physical phone system. What do they think about when you're talking about this and you're selling into those organizations? Does it even come up? Does it not come up? Or they have already made the decision, we're going into Teams? What do you see most of?
Well, it comes up. And I just talked to somebody yesterday that said, you know what, even if we have to pay a little bit more for that part of it right now than what we're paying using a different app, to collapse the applications and have one less application, one less vendor, one less bill to pay, because they got to pay all these bills. There's a accounts payable cost to having a vendor cost. So being able to collapse the vendors that you have to pay for, collapse the applications on the desktop that the end user has to manage. But we don't care about IT time, however long it takes you guys.
I was just gonna say that that's not even included.
We don't even care about
that. Seems huge though, right? Like that's not even included. If IT is having to go manage these applications, what's IT? And IT makes a lot. Just ask Brandon. They make a ton of money. So it's like,
it's like that $45 an hour. It's like it's like pennies.
So how does I mean, that's not even calculated in this whole productivity saving. I mean, managing another application as opposed to here, it's all in one. That's a pretty interesting thing there, huh? Gonna have to think about that a little bit. That's pretty cool. I like that from an angle perspective. That's a pretty good discussion to have, and that's reason enough, I would say, to collapsing applications seems like a really good plan and a really good sort of productivity gain there. Not to mention the one that Brandon calculated. Okay, so Carmen, let's talk about Gartner, because I think you said Gartner just came out with a brand spanking new report, and
yes,
they talked. Tell us about it. Just tell us about it. Like, just go.
Yes, they did. It came out on November 28th. It's the 2023 edition of Gartner's Magic Quadrant for Unified Communications as a Service, and Microsoft's number one. Yeah, it's good to align yourself with number one. And under the three things that they said, Gartner does the strengths and the cautions, things they want to caution you about. They cautioned. Thank you. So they cautioned about customers can become confused about all the different choices for PSTN connectivity, mobile, calling plans, operator connect, direct, and that confuses them. Harken back to I want to Google 3 articles and become an expert. It's not going to happen. But that's what makes the partners valuable. Hey, if we can understand off-premise extension, foreign exchange lines, PRIs, ISDN, this stuff's a piece of cake. So if you can understand all of that stuff, this stuff is a piece of cake, and you can talk to your client and help them pick which one's appropriate. So that was one of their cautions. The other caution was they don't have hunt groups. They don't have multi-line hunt groups. And they don't. Microsoft doesn't have hunt groups in their phone system. And why is that, Rick?
Microsoft doesn't have what? Hunt groups? Say that again. I
Hunt
was in the middle of typing.
They don't have hunt groups in their phone system.
Because they don't call them hunt groups.
That's right. So they call them call queues, and they're far
Call
more
queues.
robust than a hunt group. And you got some amazing capabilities in there. So they don't have hunt groups because they don't call them hunt groups. And they don't have IVRs because they don't call them IVRs. They call them automated attendance. So it's more or likely a vocabulary issue.
Oh.
And so that was the second caution. The third caution was sometimes you have to have applications that are, for lack of a better word, they didn't use this word, bolt-on. So third-party applications to get some of the functionality you want. And newsflash, you do want a phone system too. So if you've got an on-premise phone system and you want call recording, you're going to have to bolt on a call logger. I mean, whether the
okay,
call
so
or transcription, to your point, you're going to go pay extra service to bring in a, whether it's Google, Microsoft, IBM, one of the voice, I'm meaning legacy phone systems, you're going to have to bolt that on as well. Like there's tons of bolt-ons that have to happen.
Well, so like that, you got the security because you don't want to send your recording out over the internet to these people, have them transcribe and send it back to you if security's at all a concern.
Yep.
So this is to both of you guys. This question's for both of you guys. We're pro Teams here, right? Everything Teams Phone Live. Okay. So what are some gaps that you see in Microsoft Teams that you frequently come across that a partner or a customer said, oh, I needed this, and you just don't have it? Is there anything in there that you've come across? And for Brandon, you from a technical perspective can get really granular on this, I'm sure. But Carmen, what do you see out there?
Paging through the telephone sets. Don't do it. I don't see anything on the roadmap, and I've looked way out far on the roadmap. I don't see anything on the roadmap where they're going to want to do that. Paging on the telephone sets.
Okay.
Some of the companies I talk to, you got to explain to them, okay, paging on the phone sets, we used to page because we were trying to find somebody in a big office and we didn't know where they were. Everybody's walking around with this now. If I want to find you, Brandon, I will text you, chat you up, and say, "Where are you? I have a call for you."
And I've heard a debate about that in regards to, and I know it doesn't address the phone, the physical device, meaning like the phone sitting behind you, but I always get told this when I'm talking to, like, it could be maybe a Microsoft person or someone that's deep in the Microsoft ecosystem is, oh, just use walkie-talkie mode, set up your groups and go walkie-talkie. And
but you can't do that from the desktop.
It's the mobile phone that you held up.
Yeah.
That's the only way you're going to do that. There's that, and the other one that I think I see a lot is this desire to take a legacy phone, like what we call a SIP gateway phone, and make it do a whole bunch of stuff that Microsoft just, I doubt they even have plans to go add these features into SIP gateway. It's more of hey, we're going to let you bring these legacy certified devices, but that's just to keep your costs down so you don't have to go buy 3,000 new devices until you're ready. I think that's a big conversation piece we run into all the time.
We just are. Oh, go ahead, Carmen.
I get a lot of customers that are concerned that their employees are not going to like not having a phone. So they buy phones for them. And how many times have they buy phones for everybody? And then, a couple months later, we get a little sheepish call. Hey, you want to take any of these back? We're not using them.
You know what I use my phone for? I've got a Teams phone sitting next to me out of view. I use it. Let's say I step out for 20 minutes to run an errand or make lunch or whatever, and Rick Garcia calls me, and I can hear it ringing, but my, because of security policy, my screen is locked, so I can't get the phone answered. So I'll come up and I'll answer it on my Teams phone. But guess what? The first thing I do once I sit down and unlock my computer, I transfer it right back to my computer versus keeping
So
it on the
basically,
phone.
it's a bat phone. It's a bat phone for me to use.
Kind-
So I'm like, Brandon, that's a bat
It's
phone.
a
Okay,
quick,
got it.
yeah, it's a quick pickup, and it's it's a
So,
Bluetooth handset,
so
so I can walk around
it's
with it.
it's just an alerter then, basically, or it's an
Pretty
algo
much.
alerter, is what it is. It's a
Pretty much.
speaker phone.
It's like a
Uh,
paging system or a pager.
I was going to say that's almost like almost like a boat anchor. Then is what I'm saying. One of the things is that it is Carmen, we were on a call not too long ago where we were talking about someone upgrading their Cisco devices, and you look at the cost of a new device, and you look at the cost of a license to unlock the phone, that an existing phone. It's pretty negligible, the cost difference, because if you look at that and you go, it's $100, let's just say, to unlock a Cisco phone, and you could get a really nice Teams phone for $150 or $175 or something like that. So it's like, you look at that. If you absolutely need physical devices, then just get new ones. It seems like that's the economical sort of, easier path. You get all the features. You can, do all sorts of things on the Teams phone. Just, it looks like that's kind of the way to go versus activating old devices. And, and is the experience going to be any good?
I just advise people to just be cautious with buying everybody a phone. Maybe ask people what's their preference. Ask them, would they try it without a phone? And if you really don't like it, we'll get you a phone. And they probably don't have to make that expenditure. I also tell them to get a good headset.
The good headset's the important thing. Okay, so if you look at customers, and let's just say take a customer that's 20 users. Okay, I'm going to go to the small end of the spectrum for a moment. You go 20 user customer that's used to having a phone on their desk, and you go 1,000 user customer that's used to having your phone on your desk. What do you say? Is there a common percentage of phone versus non-phone anymore? Is there do small businesses still say, hey, I need a phone on every desk, or are they the first ones to cut the physical, cut the cost, cut that stuff, and just go, hey, we're going soft phone? What do you see out there?
It's about the same. I mean, it's about the same. It's more the age of your workforce. A lot of the people with seasoned workers would prefer a phone.
There you go. See, that's true. Thank you for the comments, by the way. This is great. All right.
So,
okay.
You're going to have some old guard, some seasoned workers that are going to want a phone. Give them a phone. I mean, it's not that big a deal. Your younger workforce is going to wonder, what's this on my desk? They don't know how to use them. So
is it to the point yet where you put a rotary phone in front of a young teenager as an example, and they look at the rotary phone and kind of, they don't do the dial around anymore, and they have no clue what that is. Like, why does it go that way?
You're still going to need phones in the conference rooms and stuff like that. So you're still going to need phones in the conference room. If you got people hanging out in the kitchen and you want a phone in the kitchen, put a phone in the kitchen. That's you're going to get those. But
I want to see what I'm curious for both of you. Brandon, what is your favorite feature in Microsoft Teams? Your absolute favorite feature, and make sure the dog doesn't talk while we're doing this.
Yeah. Oh, there's a couple really cool features, I think. So I'd have to maybe think about it a little bit, but one of them might be, and I think it's a feature we've been used to for years, even outside of Teams, but it goes back to that ability to just instantly swap devices. If I need to walk away, I can literally open Teams on my phone. I can hit transfer to this device, and it seamlessly switches me. I don't miss any of the conversation. I move back to my computer. I can move it back to my computer. That's a basic feature. I think one that it maybe isn't a feature I'm ever going to use, but I think is really cool is that, back to Carmen talking about, delegated users that can answer the phone on my behalf. On top of that, there's the feature now where I can see that if someone else has made the call or answered the call on my behalf, I can see that call in progress, and I can click join So I don't even have to necessarily have any of this warm transfer, cold transfer stuff going on. I can just join that call and I can come right into my own call. I think that's a really cool feature.
That's a really cool
Yeah.
one. I bet Carmen was going to use that. So now she's got to figure out what else her favorite options are going to be, her favorite features. Carmen, what are your favorite features?
I like the delegates because sometimes I need to fake people out to get them to answer my call. I like being able to
She does
transfer
that.
the call. The calling transfer is real easy. I was going to bring up another objection that people have. They
Ooh,
are
do it.
really, they've learned their extension numbers at their office. They're big into their extension numbers, and
Yeah.
they've heard that you can't have extension numbers in Teams. And I got to tell them, if you really, really, really want your extension numbers in Teams, you can have your extension numbers. That's just one more thing for new employees to learn, one more thing for IT to mess with in the Active Directory or whatever they're calling it now. I said, but I want you to, when I'm talking to business owners, I'm like, I want you to think for a minute on your mobile phone. You're going to call your cousin. You're going to call your friend. What's their phone number? And I had a business owner say, oh my God, I can't even, if I lost my phone, I couldn't even call my son. I don't know his phone number. I dial their name. And I said, that's what you do in Teams. You're not going to dial Rick at extension 3047. You're just going to dial Rick, and it's going to bring you up a list of all the Ricks, and you pick the Rick you want, and off you go.
So you're saying you'll quickly forget about the extensions because it's so much easier, and we're already sort of trained from a mobile device
already
perspective.
there.
Yeah, makes
I mean,
sense.
Yeah,
do you
and
know your daughter's phone number, Rick?
I do, but it's because I'm a phone guy. I'm not
Okay.
giving it to anyone out there.
well, I can tell you, I have to look up even like my brothers or my parents. I have to look up their phone numbers if I need to document it for some reason. But I was going to say the extensions, I think the only real use case where that maybe comes in is it's back to the phone discussion. There's a phone sitting on your desk, and it's easier for you to dial 4 digits versus trying to look someone's name up on a phone.
Yeah, the only
Maybe.
real excuse that I bought into is all our business cards have the extension.
The extension on it. Who has business cards anymore? That's the next question.
You'd be surprised. You go to a place and they're like, they're still like, tick, 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 tick. Here you go.
Like you can find me on LinkedIn. Go find me on LinkedIn.
I will say though. Go ahead.
I have one other feature that's not really a feature, but it's more about the robustness of the Microsoft ecosystem, and that's the fact that Microsoft has, tied Teams into their Power Automate platform, so you can make flow decisions based on things that happen. So this is a really basic example. I use it because I hate voicemail. I wish voicemail would just die. No offense to people out there that live on voicemail, but I use Power Automate to take my voicemail, transcribe it, put it into a Teams chat card that sends it into my Teams chat, and then I delete the voicemail. So I do not have to manage my voicemail. And then I choose whether I want to read that transcribed voicemail or not. So really flexible when it comes to Power Automate for individual users, right? That's a rule for me. That's not, the IT admin doesn't do that for me. I do it myself. So like if Carmen or you, Rick, want to do your own Power Automate for things like you get a chat and you want it to remind you to make a phone call, you can do whatever you want with Power Automate to make your business phone do business process.
That is probably my favorite feature, not just Power Automate. And this is not even a feature per se, right? But I look at what you just talked about. I look at Microsoft Teams Phone as an entry point, essentially, into a Microsoft ecosystem, the greater ecosystem that is Power Automate, Azure Communication Services, Power BI, the new bot framework that's coming out, cognitive services, right, for that transcription and stuff like that. All those components make up the greater sort of Microsoft ecosystem. And when you start to talk about when you start to talk about those features in the business process that you can start to create within an organization, you've just taken your productivity calculation that you've done now, and now you can do it along a whole bunch of, features that lend to your communication solution. So talk about your Power Automate. If you can imagine forms from your website coming in automatically, getting copied into your CRM for someone to call maybe, but then maybe there's a rule in Power Automate that sends it to something else to add, to check, to look at, to dip a database in, to find some information and present a result to you, right? Whereas before that would come in, somebody would take that, someone physically go look at something. I think about law firms as an example, doing their first ingestion into a potential new client. They do a conflict of interest check, right? And they'll do this conflict of interest check only because we've done that one before. So it's always top of mind when we talk about this stuff. But you do this conflict of interest check, and now you can go and you can run this conflict of interest check, and you can deliver that and say, this potential client is approved to go chat with. And that used to take someone a lot of time to go figure out. If you can imagine you're this global law firm or big law firm, and now those sorts of things can be automated. So if you can imagine things in your business that you can automate to incrementally drive down time that a person that's paid a salary, if you can save them that time, it's that much more productivity costs there, productivity gains from a financial perspective that you can put back into your business. Right. So my favorite thing is that Microsoft Teams is a platform for productivity. And there's so many different things that you can do to go to make a case for business automation. One thing that sticks with me, and this is for my friend Roy out there, telcos, you can see this transition from a telco. Brandon, what's it transitioning to?
I think Roy called it a tech co. So obviously, we see this in our own business where we're evolving into it's, and I was just going to come back and comment on what you're talking about around the business flow, business process, business automation. Voice is just a component of the larger unified communication ecosystem, right? For that collaboration, what you're trying to do as a business. And I think what Microsoft has done is they've brought about that, obviously unified communications has always existed, but Microsoft is kind of changing the game on how robust and how powerful and how deep you can go and how horizontally you can scale across the entire 365 ecosystem. It's impressive to me. So for us, we're evolving, right? We're becoming not just the telco experts, we're becoming the techco experts.
Yep. Carmen, here's one for you.
Okay.
Largest prospect and smallest prospect and or client.
From
a seat perspective.
I'll give a shout out to Randy White Insurance Agency. They are one of my smallest. They got 5 seats.
Okay.
Uh,
All right. Okay.
and he likes the Teams. He likes what it does. They do Medicaid insurance counseling and sales. So largest.
All right.
I'm talking to a 9,000. I'm talking to a 6,000. Couple of 4,500 seat clients.
I love it. I love it. It spans the gamut.
Whole bunch of 50-75. Whole bunch of 50-75. Those are kind of fun.
That's what I love. This is great because it's a ubiquitous platform, right? And you can use it for 1 user, 5 users, or you can use it for 10,000, 20,000, 50,000. And in some cases, Brandon, what's the number that we heard for the global organizations we were chatting with in London?
Oh, it's huge. It's in the 100,000s. It's like they're massive corporations. But I was going to say this all goes back to, it made me reminisce about like Everything Teams Phone Live episode 2 or something like that, where we were talking about the the cost of entry into the Microsoft ecosystem. And
He locked up.
Oh, I was going to say, I was afraid to say something because I was like, okay, let me just wait. If it's him or is it me, it must be him. Well,
Yeah,
that's
he
good
locked
anyway, because that's we're top of the hour, and he was going to have the honors today to outro us, but since he's not, he's
He
got
looks like
he's got a good. He
trying.
stopped at a good spot there. That's right. That's right. Carmen, I just want to say thank you very much for your time today because this was awesome. This is a really, Brandon, I was going to throw you the outro. So I'm going to throw you the outro after I say thank you to Carmen. Oh, go for it. Go.
yeah, okay. No. Go. And I'll finish my thoughts since my good old Comcast internet is rocking as usual.
So I was just telling Carmen, thank you for taking time out of her day. I know she's busy working with partners, working with organizations, getting Teams phone in the hands of everybody she talks to. So I just want to say, Carmen, thank you for sharing your insight, what you see on a day-to-day experience. I think it's important for the selling community out there to understand that there's lots of opportunity in the team space, and they need to hop into it and potentially work with you on stuff like this. So thank you very much for your time. Brandon, finish your thought and outro us, my man.
Yeah, I was just wherever I dropped off, reminiscing episode 2 or something like that. Microsoft making the cost of entry fair to all, right? You can be that 5-user customer like Carmen was talking about, or you can be that 5,500 user seat. Your licensing is your licensing with Microsoft, and what's cool is they don't gate the features based on the size, right? I can now pay for a license and I get all the same features that the biggest enterprises in the space get. So that was my thought there.
Save for Copilot, but other than that, yes.
Yeah, but that's going to change. That's going to change.
All right, do it, man. Outro us. Thanks, everybody. Go ahead, Brandon.
All right. I think next week I think we're actually on holiday next Friday. So we're going to have to figure out what we're doing for our Everything Teams Phone Live episode 46. But I'm sure you'll see us live next week. On that, everyone have a great weekend and thanks for joining.
See everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right.